Hi, I'm Brenna. This summer I worked with Project Fleur-de-lis, which is a school-based mental health program. It started after Hurricane Katrina because all these children had gone through this crazy trauma and there weren't that many resources to get out to them. But since then, it's expanded to a lot of branches like suicide prevention. It still does the trauma work. It also does a lot of evidence-based research, and now they're working a lot with military families. So I focus mostly on the suicide prevention aspect, and specifically in that, I researched LGBTQ students and suicide prevention. So that was my main contribution this summer. I was revising slides that they have on their website and just like putting together a list of resources for teachers and parents and whoever needs them to look on there. And it was really interesting, and it was almost frustrating to look at how simple the fixes were for classrooms to be more inclusive for all people. And it goes for all, it goes for race, gender, sexual minorities as well, because just having an inclusive curriculum where you acknowledge every kind of person instead of just white men, it just really goes so far for mental health. Another big contribution was we have to make these risk assessment forms and give them out to schools that are associated with Project Fleur-de-lis for the mental health professionals to evaluate the students if they say something that's like a red flag, or maybe you're concerned about them and you want to know if they are thinking about suicide. So we got together a big task team, and for a few hours at least, we just debated how long to make it, what we should add, and everything you could think of for how a mental health professional in a school is going to be able to have enough time to talk to this kid, how they're going to make them comfortable, and like how they're going to assess a really critical assessment, because there's not much room to mess up when you're doing suicide assessments. And that was pretty eye-opening because I got to speak to a lot of people that worked in the field for a long time, and just hearing about their experiences was really interesting, and definitely I learned a lot from that day. Another more things I had to do at the internship was just, I would get little projects every day, I guess. I didn't have like a huge long-term project, but there are things like a lot of parents have been calling concerned about this TV show 13 Reasons Why. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it, and it caused an uproar in the in the mental health professional. Like, they're all talking about it and how can they reach out to parents, what do they do about this. And if you've seen it, it's pretty concerning the way they depict mental health and suicide. It's very triggering, and so I had to research that and gather resources and put them out for people to teach themselves, look up the websites that I put there, and just feel better about letting or not letting their child watch this show. The same thing goes for the Blue Whale Challenge, and I hadn't heard about this before I worked at Project Fleur-de-lis, but it's basically this app or this online game that children were supposedly playing. It started in Russia, supposedly, and it would set up a bunch of tasks for kids to do, like self-mutilation and cutting and all these weird things, and then the last challenge would be to kill themselves. And apparently people have died from it until recently a new article come out saying that the whole thing was kind of a hoax. But I spent a lot of time researching it to see if it was real, because even if the game is not real, there are online chat rooms and weird things that go online that your young teenager might get into, and parents are really concerned about it. They keep calling about this Blue Whale Challenge. So basically I had to, for every topic I was researching, I had to just gather resources and quickly summarize them, but really just give the information out to the people, give them what they want. So yeah, I don't know if it was what I expected from the internship. I thought I would be doing more hands-on thing, maybe going to schools, but I didn't really think about how in the summer there's not much to do because schools are out of session, obviously, and they do have some trainings and meetings, but they're coming up in August, so I guess I'll be doing more hands-on stuff then, which is exciting. And has the coursework impacted my internship at all? I don't think it has changed it much, but it definitely has added to it. Like thinking about the articles and having to write a summary every week has really like made me think deeper about the work that I'm doing and how it relates to more things than just specifically suicide prevention. Okay, so what have been the successes and challenges of your internship? I'd say some of my biggest successes have just been being able to share my opinion with all these professionals that I'm around, because I'm clearly the least knowledgeable on this subject and the least experienced, but just having the confidence to like ask questions and, you know, give my input has been kind of a breakthrough for me. I was worried that I would just be really quiet and not really contributing that much, so I really tried to get my voice heard. Challenges, definitely the blue whale challenge took up a lot of my time trying to research that, see if it was true or not. Finally, we know it was a hoax, but that was quite a challenge for a while. The risk assessment team meeting was definitely challenging. We had a long debate, and we went into the meeting with some goals, like decide how long it's going to be, decide how many forms we're going to give out, what's going to be on it. And by the end of the task meeting, we basically discussed everything and then came down to the same like handful of questions that we hadn't really answered yet. We just had expanded on them so much. What else? I think it's hard to gather information and get it out to parents and teachers in a constructive way. Like for the LGBTQ suicide prevention, you want to be able to reach out to them in a very understanding way. And like, I don't know always what kind of level of knowledge I'm going to be, or who's going to be reading this, and how much information I should put on it, or how much people know already. So it's hard to make such an overview of something and then send it out to a ton of people and not know who is going to be reading it. Have you drawn connections between your coursework and internship? Absolutely. A few of the articles that really stuck out was the Martel 2009 one. And he was talking about how psychologists should not be afraid to advocate for a social change. And that kind of really spoke to me. And, you know, just speaking to a lot of my coworkers, they all are pretty liberal, kind of lean left, but they really do advocate for what they believe in. And I think that's really nice to see that, like, even in a professional setting, you can still, like, take charge and advocate for what you believe in strongly. Also, the Smith, Chambers, and Bertini article about how kind of a lot of, like, the DSM is very, very like, patriarchal, and a lot of studies are whitewashed, and it really applies to my internship, because you're taking these evidence-based practices or like you're reading these studies and trying to implement them, but you really have to take into consideration like who these studies were done on, and usually it's a lot of white people, and if you're trying, you know, Project Fleur-de-lis works with a lot of minorities, and it's just not the same to apply like the same exact studies and expect the same results to a completely different population. And then there's the Richard Catalano, which is how you need to like intervene at all levels of an individual in order to really see a change. And I think that pertained to the Project Fleur-de-lis, because they really tried to speak to everyone. Like they try to speak to the children, but also get the parents involved, and then also reach out to all the teachers and mental health professionals in the school. And they only when like everyone's on the same page does something really work. And then if I were to give any positive feedback or constructive feedback to my supervisor, it would just be to not be afraid to give me work. I feel like when I first got there, it was a little awkward and people didn't really know what I was going to be doing there, and they were a little like hesitant to give me things to do. And then, but now after a little while working there, now I have my workload is stacking up. But at first I was feeling a little awkward and kind of lost and like what to do. I was definitely their first like undergrad intern, so I don't think they quite knew how to handle it, but it's definitely getting better. And then any advice I would give to a future intern would be just ask everything that you can, because these people love what they do and they love talking about it. And I've learned so much just from like, thinking about my future. They all have advice and like school and like what programs to do. And it's really awesome. You just have to pick their brains because they're so knowledgeable. And so the next question is, how do you think the internship will impact your future goals and moving forward? So I had never thought about working with children before, but after doing Project Fleur-de-lis, so much of the work was with schools and children, and I was never like a kids person, but I realized that there's so much more to it, like the research part and um, just like getting everything together and going there. And you can teach people, you can do the trainings, and it's actually working a lot more with parents and teachers than I realized. And the people are so passionate, it kind of made me want to do that too, because they just seem like they enjoy their job a lot, which is really nice to see. But other than that, I feel like my goal has just strengthened from being here. I went into psychology thinking I might be a therapist in a lot of years, but yeah, being around all these therapists and psychologists, like loving their jobs and always wanting to talk about it, was pretty exciting, and it just made me want to pursue my goals even farther.